You know, it doesn't take Sherlock Holmesian didactics to recognize that many aggressive anti-speech forces want to push beyond big tech censorship of conservative and libertarian ideas and into government censorship of the ideas and of those who might offer space for those ideas on their websites. But new overtures from the likes of CNN analyst Oliver Darcy and from scratch heads at the Brookings Institution tell us that, as Holmes used to tell Watson when they battled the bad guys, the game is indeed afoot. Hi everyone, I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC-TV. As any good Sherlockian knows, keen detection requires weaving together numerous evidentiary threads. And our first thread is the most overt, coming from the oh-so-charming CNN media analyst Oliver Darcy, who on January 8th published in textual form the kind of arrogant fascism he's also promoted on screen. That not only should big tech censor right-wingers, which evidently includes leftist anti-war reporters, leftist pro-privacy reporters, and leftist reporters who correctly noted that Trump's campaign did not collude with the Russian government to influence the 2016 election. And of course, he has to tell people that they're fake news, an ironic term for anyone in CNN's employ, must also be crushed. But also, Darcy pushed the idea that something should be done to punish cable television and internet providers themselves if they have the temerity to allow an option or information that does not conform to the truth that he and CNN so consistently spew. Writes Darcy, we regularly discuss what the big tech companies have done to poison the public conversation by providing large platforms to bad faith actors who lie, mislead, and promote conspiracy theories. But what about TV companies that provide platforms to networks such as Newsmax, One America News, and yes, Fox News? So, right off the bat, Darcy beats the drum about lies and conspiracy theories, flipping reality, of course, and claiming that big tech is in alliance with the pushers of evil because they've provided large platforms for what he claims, without citation, of course, are lies and conspiracy theories. That would be big tech like Google, which whistleblower Zach Voorhees, and thank you Zach, already has exposed as creating a blacklist of conservative, libertarian, anti-war, and anti-authoritarian websites and writers or video creators. And that evidently Google used to suppress search results. Big tech like, Mr. Darcy, perhaps Facebook, which recently blocked former Congressman, consistent peace advocate, and small government libertarian Dr. Ron Paul from posting on his own page on Facebook. And by the way, Facebook recently blocked yours truly until the first week of February. I got no information. I have no workable way to reach them to find out why I've been blocked and can't post on Facebook. And of course, Mr. Darcy, any cursory study of CNN reveals that these are the kinds of ideas and information that you seem to like to call conspiratorial and lies, simply because they don't agree with your authoritarian positions. Pay no attention to the fact that CNN has repeatedly broadcast less than trustworthy information. From the days when CNN so-called reporters were exposed for pretending to be under threat of Iraqi bombing in Saudi Arabia, when in fact they were play acting.
The top 10 things about Saudi Arabia. Maybe we could shorten the list to 5.
Geopolitics by Dan Quayle.
Je suis un journaliste américain. Wolf.
To the just as troubling moment when CNN hosts were caught pretending to be live reporting far apart from one another after the Sandy Hook incident, when the hosts were in fact shown to be, yeah, you got it, right near each other in the same parking lot.
Check it out. I want you to pay attention to the red truck and the bus. Red truck, bus, bus in the background.
Gee, I wonder why CNN didn't mention that, and it took people like us to discuss it before we got blocked. Or how about that moment when a CNN live shot team was caught literally arranging a London so-called protest group on a public street? But don't bother with that checkered background at all. Of course, we can't discuss it, right, Mr. Darcy? We can't discuss the fact that such behavior on the part of CNN would put them in the category of lie purveyors and conspiracy theory pushers that you want banished. Can you say Russian collusion? You see, Darcy isn't only pushing participatory big tech censorship. Darcy wants much, much more. As he so awkwardly notes, it's TV companies, i.e. cable television networks, he finds distasteful, that should be punished. And it's the cable providers themselves as well, because, as he recently said on CNN's quote, reliable sources, end quote.
There are a lot of people profiting off of lies and conspiracy theories, and I don't really see how things get better, how we move on as a country until this informational environment is cleaned up.
Which begs numerous questions. First, who is this we Mr. Darcy mentions? That question lies at the heart of any political proposal, because we is the most dangerous pronoun in political discourse. It is a weapon used to forcibly include you, to assume your agreement and acquiescence. And should you want to be left alone, you're antisocial. You're non-inclusive. You are, as the epic television series The Prisoner said of those who would not conform to political diktats, you are unmutual.
We are bound to classify you as unmutual.
Second, what does Darcy mean by cleaning up this informational environment? Does he mean censorship based on his view of what is clean or unclean? And Darcy's rumblings just so happen to follow on the heels of think tank propositions along the lines of this censorship idea, specifically coming from the collectivism-loving Brookings Institution, which on 2 occasions in the past few months has promoted the thought balloon of returning to and expanding on the days of the Orwellian federal so-called fairness doctrine. On November 18th, Brookings published a spongy piece by Mark McCarthy entitled How the New Biden Administration Can Control Infodemics, which, just from its title, hints that the author doesn't really like the spread of information that he finds distasteful. In other words, he's censorious and anti-freedom. And of course, he wants the government involved, saying in part, safety and quality standards of digital architecture and software engineering should be enforced by a digital standards enforcement agency. That digital architecture and enforcement agency, methinks that means the vectors and media through which electronic communications travel. And how about safety and quality standards? Well, that means information that is deemed safe. And of course, the enforcement in his proposed agency speaks for itself. Hot on the heels of that pseudo-intellectual popcorn, on December 21st, Brookings published a new piece by Alex Engler entitled How Biden Can Take the High Road on Misinformation. This, of course, begs more questions. First, what's wrong with seeing misinformation? As 19th century philosopher John Stuart Mill wrote in the famous treatise on liberty, in order to get facts, one needs to be open to information, even if it's incorrect. Only through testing what one believes to be correct can one determine what is incorrect. And this is what the internet has allowed for more than 25 years, the constant participatory search for and sharing of information so that individuals can make up their own minds. To claim that certain information must be shut out from the internet is to eliminate the possibility that people can decide for themselves what is true or untrue. This doesn't seem to trouble Mr. Engler, who expands on his implication that Biden and the federal government should put the muzzle on speech. And this is where the strands of the mystery all unite, where Darcy's, McCarthy's, and Engler's leftist authoritarianism meets the ideas of someone whom many might see as a paladin of the so-called right. Engler pushes this: a new theory of internet speech regulation called the Online Fairness Doctrine, proposed most prominently by Republican Josh Hawley. Now, to be fair, this piece of anti-First Amendment speech control is not just the kind of thing Hawley supports. A similar idea was proposed in 2019 by then Congresswoman from Hawaii, left-winger, and pro-peace advocate in many instances, Tulsi Gabbard. And, gushes Engler, this concept would be an adaptation of the original Fairness Doctrine, which from 1949 to 1987 required broadcasters to devote airtime to opposing views on controversial issues of public importance. Under the FCC's bogus so-called Fairness Doctrine, radio and television station owners were compelled to give so-called free time to any viewpoint that anyone wanted to offer. But it was compelled. And that rides on top of the faulty idea that radio station owners don't own their stations and that they only rent space on government-owned airwaves. Nothing in the Constitution allows the feds to, quote, own airwaves. Additionally, when applied, this imposition prompted station owners to simply purge opinions from their broadcast days. Music took over everything, even on the monophonic, static-laden amplitude modulation side, AM radio. Only in 1987, when the FCC stopped enforcing the false Fairness Doctrine paradigm, did speech really open up on the radio, leading to the emergence of titans like Rush Limbaugh and hundreds of smaller voices that had all kinds of ideas to share with people, including phone callers who could call in. This, of course, is something the authoritarians have disliked, because it allows people to offer and exchange ideas that run contrary to the authoritarian diktats. Engler, of course, seems to, love restricting speech. As my colleague John Villasiner has written, the Online Fairness Doctrine, quote, suggests a view that private entities should be compelled to serve as viewpoint-neutral vehicles for dissemination of government speech. Compelled. Government speech, dissemination. This is just the start. Watch out. Online speech and radio and television broadcasting are targets, and so are your opinions and your ability to speak. So much for the Bill of Rights. The game is afoot, Watson. Thanks so much for being a fellow detective and fighting the bad guys out there. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Share these videos with as many people as you can. I can't see you personally on Facebook, but visit MRCTV on Facebook. I'm banned until February, I think, so I'm working through surrogates. Facebook's ridiculous. And Twitter, we are on Twitter. I'm on Twitter as well, at Gard Goldsmith. MRCTV on Twitter. You can find the whole team on Twitter. Also, Parler, Rumble. Videos on Rumble now. And if you want to follow me on Gab, it's at Gardner Goldsmith. I know Gab has seen a massive influx of people, and that's great to know. Andrew Torbo of Gab is doing really good work. So everybody, please stick with us. Remember, if you can't find us, if something happens on social media, the core website, mrctv.org, is your location. That is key. And if you want some great items and you want to help support the Media Research Center, go to MRC-store. Then you'll find all those great t-shirts and mugs and all sorts of other things you can purchase. For MRC TV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.